Now, I'm super excited from Prince Edward Island, woo woo, home of Anne of Green Gables. We have Sara Roach Lewis. She is a feminist business strategist, award-winning author, and expert in gender equity. Sara is on a mission to help us, ambitious women, build scalable businesses. Please help me welcome Sara Roach Lewis to the screen.
Hi, well, thank you. I'm coming to you from the land of Anne of Green Gables on the east coast of Canada. It is also known as Abaguet. It is the unceded and traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. So I do honor and pay my honor to those folks who share our land. And I am just going to jump in and ask you if you have ever had a tiny snippet of a conversation so pivotal that it changes everything for you, even though you didn't realize it at the time. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that conversation, what it inspired in me, and how it will change your life. So let me set the stage and harken back to 2018 when I was a newbie business owner, doing what newbie business owners do, trying to figure out how do I translate all these years of experience into a business. And as a feminist leader in a feminist organization, I had created opportunities for women to make transformational changes in their lives while working to expose and change systemic and structural barriers that all women face. So luckily for me, a business owner colleague knew my track record of solving big problems, and her 6-year-old business was on the brink of collapse. So she hired me to get it back on track. During one particularly hard conversation, through tears, she said lovingly to me, "This business is a nightmare, but it's my nightmare." And in that moment, I thought, oh my God, I don't want to build a nightmare, and nor do I want any of my clients to do so either. Unfortunately, I have continued to have variations of that conversation, which is not surprising, right? Because the last few years have been a bit of a nightmare. Well, what we were just talking about. And it's not surprising for women like you. The ones who have been doing it all have just done more. And you're keeping going like that badass that you are. But I know you're a tired badass because you've been pushing through because you refuse to quit. Why? Because you're the leader and you're the one that everyone relies on in business and in life. And also because what other choice do you have? You have bills to pay, mouths to feed, customers to serve. But also because you want to. You started your business for flexibility and freedom, and you love what you do, and you're good at it. Why is it then that so often you don't feel comfortable or confident in your business, even though it's yours, even though you totally know what you're doing in all of these areas, except for maybe this one tiny one over here, the self-doubt that ranges from a niggle to crushing, depending on the day. That's the nightmare, really. So what if you could shed those feelings? And I'm here to tell you that you can. The path to doing so is both deeply personal and all about having the right strategy in place. So let's talk about strategy. Did you know that the number of women-owned businesses has quadrupled in the last 40 years? Women have embraced entrepreneurship, and that is amazing. But make no mistake, the business world was not designed for you. Women have been running businesses since the beginning of time, but the world of business has generally been a boys' game. And I don't need to overwhelm you with all of the stats that show that the world is still full of unequal systems that keep us overworking and under-earning. So how do women succeed in the world where the rules of business were written by men, inspired by military strategy, and supported by women at home taking care of everything else? The answer is simple. We change the rules. But first, what are the rules that we're following now? The Art of War, written somewhere around 5th century BC, is widely regarded as the Bible of military strategy. Think about it. the language we throw around all the time. We're in the trenches trying different tactics to hit our targets. Is that a hill you want to die on? Just bite the bullet and make the unpleasant call. Not only are there echoes of military in our language, but it is the core of what business is traditionally about. Beat the competition is win the war. Maximize the winnings. Make the most profit you can. Be tough. Know your enemy. Exploit weakness. Frankly, these strategies don't resonate with most women I know. And it's the core of why we build nightmares. Because we are operating in a system that thinks winning at all cost is what success means. Yet we want to live in a world where we can embrace our competitive spirit without feeling the need to crush everyone around us. We can be fiercely ambitious and celebrate other entrepreneurs' success. We can listen to our intuition while reviewing the hard data. And that requires a new strategy, a feminist business strategy. Feminist business strategy helps you have a greater understanding of how being a woman impacts your business, your experience in business, and how you can use that to your benefit to feel more confident, be in control, and make more money. Feminist business strategy is all about abundance and freedom. It's about achieving your most ambitious goals while having fun too. It honors the whole of who you are and amplifies your voice. It reminds us that we are all working for a better world. Now, that's a dream we can all get behind. Am I right? So, what gives me the authority to develop a feminist business strategy? One of the core tenets of feminist business strategy is you do you. And I want to change the rules of business for women. Before I started my business, I spent almost a decade working for a feminist organization, and I had the pleasure of working with thousands of women on dozens of different projects. I led community research projects, consulted with government on issues of public policy, and I developed and delivered programs based on the needs of women in our community. I ran women's circles in our local detention center and organized national conferences for women leaders, and advocated for repatriating abortion services to our province. We were successful, but that's a story for another time. Much of my work, though, was spent working with women in traditionally male occupations, trades and technology, fishing and farming, business and politics. Through this work, I know that gender equity can solve all of the world's problems. I also know that as women, there is more that unites us than divides us. We are resourceful, we feel deeply, we are doing the very best that we can in the moment that we are in. We want better for ourselves, for our children, and for our world. We struggle with confidence to varying degrees in varying situations. I also know that every woman, regardless of their stature or lack thereof, their social media content or socioeconomic status, has a story or 10 that will break your heart. I know that we are resilient beyond measure and deserve far more respect than we often get. I started my business with a deep understanding of women's experience and how unequal systems and structures are designed to keep us overworking and under-earning. I also started my business at a low point in my life. I live with an illness called Meniere's disease that causes hearing loss, dizzy spells, and is like really just generally miserable when it's active. The very month I started my business, I had a dizzy spell while I was driving and ended up in the ditch. From the outside looking in, it wasn't serious. I wasn't hurt, nor was my car. But sometimes the universe whispers, and if you don't listen, it roars. And that little accident on that country road was my roar. As a result, I ended up surrendering. I surrendered to the illness that I hated so much and to my body that betrayed me all the time. I live with chronic illness, but I also live with wild ambition and big dreams like gender equity. And I knew that if I was going to be successful after having given up paid employment at 45 years old, then I was really going to need to make the best out of those 3 or 4 days a week I could get out of bed. I started with the basics. I changed my diet, I had these wobbly walks around the backyard, and I found a mindfulness practice. I would love to tell you that I never looked back. But of course, that's not the case. It's also true that I've created a thriving coaching business. I achieved financial goals I didn't imagine possible. I wrote a book, and I have achieved much greater health. So, how did I make such profound changes in my life? It's all about strategy. And in this case, I learned how to play hurt. And this, for particularly where we are right now, is critical. So let me explain. As a good Canadian family, my youngest was obsessed with hockey. One day he was telling me all about Sidney Crosby's latest injury and all the things he was doing to get better, and that even though he was injured, he was still playing. And I realized that many pro hockey players know how to play hurt and still be successful. They treat themselves with care, especially if they're not at their best. When they're feeling exhausted or injured, they take appropriate measures. They rest without apology. And while certainly not always the case, generally, pro athletes know they need to take care of themselves because they are their greatest assets. They know their lane and they stick to it, and they get help with everything else. Trainers, mindset coaches, physiotherapists, agents, the list goes on and on. Pro athletes know how to keep going when they're not at peak performance. Playing competitive sports while injured is risky, but people do it anyway. They do it for the money, for the love of the game, for personal satisfaction, and they do it because their livelihood depends on it. And so they take care of themselves when they're injured and when they're well. I am not an athletic person, but I realized that in order for me to be successful, I had to learn to play to my strengths and to get help with everything else. And so, as the saying goes, learning to play hurt was a game changer for me. And if I, Sara Roach Lewis, the person who thought that self care was stupid, could figure out how to integrate it into my life and experience massive changes as a result, then I really wanted to share that with the world. The amount of upheaval and change we've all experienced in the past 3 years, how could we all not be playing hurt at times? And since that's the case, I really want to focus on rule 2 of my feminist business strategy, and that is how to play hurt like a pro. Taking care of yourself is the key action to take. And so, just for a minute, I want you to stop and remember why you started your business or why you're in the career that you're in. So I imagine it was some kind of combination of flexibility, freedom, making money, and sharing your unique talents in the world. Most people I know start businesses because they want to help and support in some way. So who and what does your business support? Just think about that for a minute. So I imagine your business supports your staff, your family, your clients, your customers, and your community. And here's the thing. You are a critical asset in your business, just like that pro athlete, and you need to be treated as such. And yet, I know this is a challenge for many reasons. For some people, we see self-care as it has a bad rap. You know, it's self-indulgent, it's selfish, it's a hobby of the privileged. For other people, they know it's important, but they just don't have time for it, and it ends up being just another thing to beat yourself up about. In addition to the stories that you tell yourself, women are socialized to take care of everyone else first because that's what good mothers, daughters, partners, bosses do. We are taught to put our needs at the bottom of the pile. I get it. I had to put my car in the ditch before I realized I needed to take care of myself. So instead, why don't we give self care a rebrand? Imagine you buy a new car. That's an important and expensive asset. Would you then choose to not put oil in it or not put gas in it and then be mad at your car when it breaks? Of course not. If it doesn't have enough gas in the tank, it won't work. Why do we imagine that we are any different? So now that we've established that you're an important asset in your life and you need to take care of yourself, let's reimagine self-care as an important business practice. Solid business management. And you know what? Whether you have a business or not, why not take a whirl at it? Everything has changed. There's so very much little about our routines, our staffing, our life. So why not throw in a little me time and see what happens? I'm here to also tell you it's not as hard as we think. When we stack small changes and build momentum, that's what happens is we build momentum. So I want to offer you 3 strategies to get you started. Number 1, go outside. It never ceases to amaze me that the most complicated issues that I cannot figure out while sitting at my desk or stomping around my office are pretty easily solved when I just go outside and get some fresh air. And I am on the East Coast. It is storming outside right now. And, I still believe in it. As my dad would say, there's no bad weather, just bad clothing for the weather. So nature is restorative and allows us to reconnect with ourselves and the world around us. The second thing is narrow your focus. When things are hard, we just narrow to what's most important and focus on that. In 2021, when I was writing my book, my dear cousin and really good friend of mine, my cousin Ellen, was dying of cancer. She was in her early 40s with 3 small kids and a life ahead of her. So you can imagine it was not easy. They spent the summer on PEI and she wanted to stay a little bit longer. So I volunteered to drive her home a week later so her kids could get back to camp and her husband could go to work. So I ended up staying with Ellen and her family for 3 of her last 4 weeks on Earth. Boy, did my focus narrow. I went for my walk every day. I did my book edits. I coached my weekly group calls, and I spent the rest of my time being present with my family through the joy and challenge of times like that. In hindsight, it is amazing to me that I was able to accomplish anything during one of the hardest times of my whole life. I leaned heavily on my team for sure, but I knew that I needed to finish those damn book edits, and no one else could do that but me. There's a whole lot of other stuff that didn't happen, but I kept the wheels on the bus by being laser focused on only doing what was absolutely necessary. It wasn't fun, but it reinforced that my rules work. Go outside, narrow your focus, and ensure that your good habits outweigh your bad ones. The pandemic has been hard, and I am never here to judge anyone's bad habits. We all have them, but here's the deal. In order to grow and keep growing, you need to nail the basics. Eat well, exercise, go outside, develop a mindfulness practice. What you will ebb and flow as your needs change. Do you need to smoke a joint or have a drink or indulge in chocolate? That is entirely up to you. Think about your good habits and your not so great habits and keep a consistent measure to make sure your good habits outweigh the bad. So I told you I was going to give you 3 tips for playing hurt, but I'm going to give you a bonus one because this is probably my most favorite. Be kind and gentle with yourself, but also firm. We're playing hurt. We have hard days. Customers are unhappy. You're short-staffed. The weight of the world's problems are feeling especially crushing. And you have PMS. It's a lot. So we need to be kind and gentle with ourselves. What does that look like? Listen to your body. What does it say? Do you need to pee? Do you need some food? Go outside, call a friend, watch Netflix. Be kind and gentle with yourself. Firm is for the next day or the next week. I follow James Clear's advice from Atomic Habits, and I have a policy not to skip 2 days in a row when it comes to my good habits. So for me, my morning walk is important. If I'm feeling really miserable or the weather is awful, I won't go for a walk on one day, but on that second day, I'm firm with myself and I force/encourage myself to go outside because I know in the end it's going to make me feel better. So be kind and gentle and firm, and sometimes, depending on what's up, you might need long periods of kindness with little dashes of firm here and there. Give yourself grace and remember that you are doing the best you can. So for now, go outside, narrow your focus, let your good habits outweigh your bad, and be kind and gentle yet firm with yourself. These are a few suggestions for taking care of yourself that are simple but not easy. We are socialized from the time that we are sorted into blue and pink onesies to put the needs of others ahead of our own. Our world operates on the unpaid labor of women. So when you put yourself first, you are seriously pissing off the patriarchy and rocking our society's foundation. Self care is a radical act. Get clear on what you want. Over the last millennia or so, women have been supporting characters. But when you get clear on your values and your vision for your life and your business, that is what you need to do. And then every time something doesn't feel right, embrace your inner toddler and ask yourself why and why and why again. And when you peel back those layers and you discover the remnants of traditional business strategy, kick it to the curb. I am on a mission to help women build the businesses of their dreams, not nightmares. You can start by reading my book, but if you want to get there even quicker, you can always reach out and we can chat about how I can help you. But start today. You'll see the wins and build momentum. And remember, the life is not linear. Sometimes you're going to feel like you're doing the playing hurt two-step, but remember that the direction that you're facing is far more important than your speed. Thank you so much. I appreciate you listening.
Woohoo! Oh my gosh, Sarah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I took so many notes. Let's see. I have shed the feelings of self-doubt, first of all. Thank you for the permission, because apparently a few of us needed it. And then as you were talking about the different words we hear in the workplace, you
Yeah.
mentioned, is this the hill you want to die on? And I'm pretty sure I just said that yesterday at the office. It's not the
We
hill I
say it
want to
all the
die
time.
on. And I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
The other two that came to me is, well, we have to combat this,
Mm-hmm.
or we're about to deploy this. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why? Why am I using
Yeah.
all that?
Yeah.
Um, and I love self-care as a radical act. Yeah, if we aren't taking care of ourselves, nobody's going to do it for us, right? They're not going to be like, oh, hey, I see you're not taking care of yourself. Let me help you. Some people will. Hopefully, everybody in this room does that for other women. But thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your accent. I love listening to anybody from Canada. I have a coworker who is from Canada, and I'm like, "What was that about again?" And she's so it's so fun. And then butter tarts, apparently that's a thing that we don't get in the US.
Oh, really? You don't have
Telling
butter
me I
tarts?
have to
Oh,
go.
well, there's reason to
No,
come to Canada right there.
butter tarts. If you
Yeah.
have not had a butter tart, apparently it is a divine experience. So I have not yet to have one. I need to just, I'm only 30 minutes from the border. I should go get a butter tart. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? I'd love to, please feel free to pop them in the chat and or come off mute. And there was a question, do you have a bumper sticker that says self-care is a radical act, Sarah?
No, but maybe I should get one.
Yeah, if you create them, send us the link. We will
Okay,
absolutely
I
buy
will.
those.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, stars, stars. Like, okay, Canadian butter tarts. Now we're all, maybe they mail them. I don't know. Thank you again, Sarah. We are so grateful to have you. And do we have, thank you. I was just going to ask Sarah's contact info. If you would like to connect with Sarah, please do follow her. That's one thing that we can do for each other with this group is to follow each other, learn from each other, and continue to stay in connection with each other. So that's our powerful act of radical self-care this morning. And I still am so enamored with your glasses and this just rosy outlook on life that you share with all of us, paired with the realities of where we're all at. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and gosh, I think Lisette's putting this in the chat right now as well. Sarah has offered us the opportunity to download a chapter in her award-winning book. That sounds super duper cool. It does not say the name of the book. Do you have a copy of the book you can show us? I kind of can see it,
It
but I
is
think your
right
microphone.
here.
There it is.
So it's called She Rules What You Didn't Know Is Holding You Back in Business, and it really unpacks feminist business strategy. So what I talked today about around playing hurt is one of the 6 rules, and really, I wrote this book so that it could help people uncover their ambition and also be that sort of soft place to land when you are having a hard day. And so the idea around this book is that you can open to any page and take away something for that moment. And honestly, when I got it back from the like my author copy, I was like, it's not very big. And then I remembered that that was the whole point, is I wanted to make something that was, actionable, and that you could like stog in your bag or in your purse, and you could like read here and there. So it's not designed to be read, nothing is linear, right? Nothing is binary. And so it is not designed, you can certainly feel free to read it from beginning to end, but you can also feel free to open it at any page and dive in.
I love that. Thank you. I don't know how many others of you were downloading the free chapter and or purchasing the book. Highly encourage you to do both. I cannot wait. We're doing some travel in a little while, and I'm like, ooh, I'm totally taking this on the plane with me. I love that. Okay, it is. I can't even believe it's time for this yet, but it's time for lunch, and magically we have caught up to our timeline. So
Oh,
yay.
yay.
We will be taking 30